Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookish Realm, and oh gosh, I'm already not prepared. That's crazy. I'm getting so not good at doing this filming thing because, you know, I'm so tired. No, it's not wine. Although I do wish it was. It's just fruit punch. How unfortunate. Hey y'all, as I said, it's Ashley. Duh. And I am here with my January wrap-up, which is crazy. I read 23 books in January, y'all. 23 books. But do understand that some of these books were picture books. Some of them were single issue graphic novels or comics. So, did I really read that much? Probably not. Probably not at all. So if you guys probably don't remember me saying this, but I'm going to do a separate wrap-up for the picture books. So I will not be including the picture books in this wrap-up in particular, although I will include them in my stats, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense because it makes sense to me. Okay, so let's get started with some stats. So like I said, in the month of January, I read 23 books. It came to a total of 3,715 pages. As far as the genres are concerned, I read a pretty wide range. I read 3 nonfiction, 2 thrillers, 10 picture books, 1 historical fiction, 4 graphic novel, manga, comics, and 3 romance/contemporary. As far as the age breakdown, I read 10 children's, 1 middle grade, 2 YA, and 10 adult. I'm so surprised that I read 10 adult books. It's a good thing, but I'm still surprised. The format, I read 12 physical books, 5 ebooks, and 6 audio. As far as my sources, this is pretty sad. I only read 1 book that I own. I read 21 borrowed from the library and 1 advanced reader's copy in ARC, 1 from the publishers. Then just some random categories that I'm keeping track of this year. I read 3 books that can count as having sufficient and thorough LGBTQIA+ representation. I read 1 book that was translated. 8 books were written by people of color and it's considered own voices. 1 book was over 500 pages. None were rereads. And 7 were written by Black authors. So those are my stats. That'll kind of give you an idea of what I'm keeping track of this year. I was going to keep all my stuff in a reading journal, but honestly, y'all, I don't have time to keep a reading journal. Like, I think it's cute. I think it's super creative. I'm super creative. I think I'm super cute. Let me stop. But I just don't have the time to keep a reading journal. But what I do have time to do is keep a basic spreadsheet. So I'm going to keep a spreadsheet of it in Excel of all of my reading stats that I can go through and look at the end of this year. But outside of that, like, I just can't do the reading journal thing right now. It's too much with me and having a little one. Okay, so like I said, I am going to go through the books that I read. I am not going to cover the picture books. That's going to be a completely separate wrap up. So do not expect any picture book reviews or for me to discuss any of the picture books that I read in the month of January in this video. So the first book that I read in the month of January was Training My Heart to Love You by Monica Walters. This was one that I had started reading in December for the Kindle Unlimited Weekend Readathon, and I didn't finish it. It has amazing plus size rep. It's about a girl who's already comfortable with being plus size, but she is trying to find love. She has this horrible relationship with her mother, and she's trying to work through that, and she meets this guy who's really great. They get along well. There really wasn't much conflict it was just them learning to be together and work together and love each other. And I actually really enjoyed this one. I was surprised that I enjoyed it so much, but this one was written by an author that falls underneath another author that I do like the author that I like. Her name is Love, and she has her own publishing company, and this woman wrote under that publishing company, so I wasn't surprised that I kind of did enjoy it. But I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and I have a full written review of it, and I will link it down in the description box below. The second one that I read in the month of January was one that I listened to in audio, and it was The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is the second Christina Lauren book that I have read, and I don't get the buzz per se. So it was one of those fake dating type of romances where our main character Olive had to, let me make sure that like I'm saying her name right, but it is. So Olive basically has to take a trip in the place of her sister Amy because Amy gets food poisoning. Well, the whole wedding crew gets, everybody at the wedding gets food poisoning except Amy and her except Olive and her brother-in-law Ethan. And it's really interesting because I feel like this was also a romance of like miscommunications and just not really speaking up when they should speak up, and I don't do well with romances like that. I did think that a lot of the situations that they found themselves in were hilarious. I thought that Olive was a hilarious character. I thought she handled their situation in a very awkward way to the point that it was just hilarious. So that did bump it up for me a little bit, but I wasn't mesmerized by it. Like I don't think that I enjoyed it the way that everybody else enjoyed it. I don't think that Ethan was a well-developed character. I felt like he was just really dry and bland, and we didn't really get much insight to his character. And so I wasn't just, I guess I didn't understand why Olive was so attracted to him. I didn't really get it. And I hated that he defended some things that I think were indefensible. And I don't want to spoil it here, but if you've read the book, then you know what I mean. Like, I feel like some things were blatantly obvious that Olive was pointing out to him, and he just didn't want to, like, he didn't want to believe it, but it was so obvious to the point where it's like, how could you not believe it? So it just bothered me that he just refused to believe her and was willing to make excuses for something that even I as a reader saw coming from a mile away. So it kind of made the book a little bit predictable too, and I only ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. The next thing that I read was an electronic comic book, and this is issue 1 of Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion IV. He also wrote a series that I like called The Woods. I need to go back and reread it because I really enjoyed it. But this is about a town where the kids are being eaten by some creature and they can't figure out what it is until this girl comes to town, and she apparently seems like she's a monster slayer of some sort, but it is gruesome, it is graphic. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to pick up the second issue. I think I'm going to pick up the second issue probably sometime in the month of February. And I didn't say it before, but I have a full written review of The Honeymooners, which I will link down below, and a full written review of Something is Killing the Children, which I will link down below. And I also have a full written review of the next single issue comic that I'm going to talk about. So after that, I read BB Free issue number 1 by Gabby Rivera. And this one is about a young girl per se, but I think, and since it's the first issue and this was only like 26 pages, it's kind of hard to grasp fully sometimes what the characters are doing or what they're leaning towards. But I'm pretty sure that our main character BB might end up being gender fluid. I think I will have to read the rest of the issues to figure that out, but I think she might end up being gender fluid. And BB likes hosting this radio show with her best friend, but then you kind of figure out that she has these powers, and it takes place in the United States, but it is a post apocalyptic version of the United States where it's not even one mainland continent anymore. So I can't wait to see exactly what happened to the United States, that it's not one mainland continent. Not that we are, because we have Hawaii, which is part of the United States, but it's not mainland. But like the actual continent of North America has been broken up. And apparently Bibi is exhibiting some superpowers that her father does not like, and she just wants to be able to express herself, because I think at the age of 15 there's this kind of ritual that they all go through, and Bibi wants to do it, but her father just says like, you need to be a good girl. And I think what we may see is that Bibi may not even want to be referred to as a girl. I kind of got those vibes, and like that imposing that because she has the you know, the anatomy of a female, that means that she must be a good girl. And it's so good. The artwork was absolutely beautiful. If you haven't checked this one out, I would definitely and highly recommend it. The next one that I read was Diana, Princess of the Amazons, illustrated by Victoria Ying and written by Shannon Hale and Dean Hale. I was sent this one for a review by DC. Who is this? DC Comics, and it's part of their middle grade series, DC Zoom. So this is the story of Diana before she becomes Wonder Woman. And she's 11 years old in this, and she's trying to figure out her path and her way, because she's at the age where she's too young to do things that she used to do, but she's not old enough to participate with the rest of the Amazons. They treat her like a little kid, and then sometimes they don't treat her like a little kid. So it's really confusing for her. She goes through the typical issues that I think kids around that age deal with. I think this is just a cute way to see Diana prior to her becoming Wonder Woman. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I did a blog tour for this one, so I will link that down below in the description. The next thing that I read or listened to on audio was Crazy Love Revised and Updated, Overwhelmed by a Relentless God by Francis Chan. I am working on really renewing my faith this year, so I thought I would do that by reading some nonfiction books, and this is one that I saw that my library had, and it looked really interesting, and I checked it out. And while I don't agree with everything that Francis Chan had to say, a lot of it I did agree with, because it just talks about the awesomeness of like having faith in God and what that means and how that looks, and it was just phenomenal. I found myself listening to certain parts over again, and I won't be surprised if this is one that I do end up rereading before the year is over with. And I did end up giving this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I do have a full written review of this one, so I will link that down below in the description box if you're interested in checking it out. After this, I read Hood Lovin' from a White Boy 2 by Shay Jones, or is it Shaw Jones? I'm gonna say Shay. And I did not like this one as much as I liked the first one. The first one I gave 3 stars to, I believe 3 or 4 stars to, because I thought it was an interesting concept. There is this niche genre in the romance community that I found via Kindle Unlimited, where there's an emphasis on romantic relationships between white males and black women. It's called BWWM is the niche genre, and I've been reading a couple of books within that niche genre, and this is one that I started the series, and the first one I thought was really interesting, but in the second one, I feel like the writing fell apart so badly. The writing was horrible, and then I felt like the author just started inserting random things that didn't really align with the first book for the sake of creating a plot, instead of really taking time to deliberately figure out where she wanted to go with this series. So it just it wasn't executed, and it definitely wasn't delivered as well as it could have been, so I ended up giving that one 2 out of 5 stars. The next one that I listened to was the Chestnut Man, written by Soren Savestrup. I always have issues pronouncing his last name. But this is the same guy who wrote the show The Killing, which seems to be a big hit. This is a Nordic noir thriller, and it's my first venture into it, and it was so good. It essentially is about these two detectives, and they are investigating these gruesome crimes that have been happening. And these gruesome, when I say gruesome, I mean gruesome like they're finding the bodies missing limbs. And and it's all women, and they're like so brutally assaulted, it's crazy. And when they go and they, investigate the bodies, they find at one of the crime scenes a Chestnut Man. But when they go and they run the fingerprints on the Chestnut Man, they find that one of the fingerprints belongs to a 12-year-old who supposedly had gone missing, and was pronounced dead a year prior to all of these murders happening. It is such a thrilling ride. I think with this book you can definitely tell that the author is a screenwriter, because everything was so detailed that you can kind of tell that it was almost like written as if it was scenes for a movie. I mean, everything was super, super detailed. It was over 500 pages. The audiobook was, I think, probably about 17 hours, if not a little bit longer than that. And I just could not put it down. I don't think the narrator was the best in the audiobook. I wouldn't really recommend listening to it on audio, but it was phenomenal. It definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. And when the big reveal happened at the end, I was kind of like, wow, I would have never in a million years guessed that that is who it was and how everything tied together. It was so crazy. So if you read The Chestnut Man, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I really enjoyed that one. I did end up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I read You Too by Jeanette Gertler, and this is a compilation of stories related to the Me Too movement written by some well-known authors, just people in general that are sharing their experiences. And it was a tough read. I read this one as part of a blog tour, so I'll link my review of this one as well down in the description box. And I really can't say much about it because of the fact that it is just so detailed, and it's not about spoiling it, but I also don't want to trigger anybody, because some of the stories I read were triggers for me. So I will definitely say be mindful that this does include descriptions of, you know, sexual assault, rape, incest, verbal abuse, physical abuse. It was, oh my goodness gracious, it was heartbreaking to read it. It took me forever to read it because I just couldn't read it all in one. I couldn't do it. It was just too much. So it ended up taking me so much longer than I anticipated. But and I can't even say that I enjoyed it. I can't say like it's so good. It was a powerful book. It was so powerful and such a meaningful read. And I think this is something that is written for a YA audience, and this is something that I definitely think teens should have access to. I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't think you can really put a rating on the experiences that a lot of these individuals went through. But if you have not had a chance, because I don't think a lot of people on BookTube are talking about it, so if you ever get the opportunity to pick it up, like, definitely pick it up, even if you just have to go get it from your local library. After that, I listened to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo on audio by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Why did no one tell me that this book was so daggone sad? It's so sad. This is easily going to be one of my top reads of 2020. It was so good. I listened to it on audio and just could not stop listening to it because it was just so phenomenal. I think that Evelyn is such a polarizing character. Like, you love her and you hate her at the same time because you empathize with her experiences. You love her just because of how determined and strong she is, but you hate her for some of the pretty things that she did. But you know, I feel like she came full circle. She learned a lot about herself. And this is such a powerful book because it deals so heavily with like identity, and not just sexual or gender identity, but also like racial identity, what it means to be a person of color, and how we navigate this world being a person of color. Like, what does it mean to be a woman, and using your sexuality to move forward in life, and how, you know, for a woman who owns her sexuality, 9 times out of 10 she's going to be judged for using her sexuality to move forward in life. So I can't recommend this book enough. If you haven't read it yet, y'all, like, pick it up. Please pick it up. It was just phenomenal, a phenomenal listen, and I can't wait to read this again. I may get a physical copy and annotate it. We'll see. And here we have the most disappointing read already of 2020. So this is Pumpkinhead by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. The artwork in this was so great. I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. But the storyline, trash, y'all. Like, I don't understand how this won Best Graphic Novel of 2019. I don't know how some of y'all have paid $25 for this book. There are tons of graphic novels and comics that were nominated last year that should have beat this out. And it makes me feel like the Goodreads Choice Awards are nothing but a popularity contest, because there's no way that so many people read this book and really thought that it should have won that award. I'm just saying. But this is a story about two characters, Josie and Daisha, and they've been friends for years. Their common ground is that they work at this pumpkin patch every fall, and this is their last go round before they have to go away to college. And apparently he's interested in this girl that he's seen for a long time at the pumpkin patch, and Deja is determined to make sure that he gets his shot at this girl because he hasn't made the first move yet. And she's kind of like, we're going to go on this adventure and journey to find her so you can profess your love. And it was so predictable. Like, I knew what was going to happen like 40 pages in, and it bothers me because graphic novels have to be written in such a particular way because there's not as much text and they don't have as much length. So you have to tell the story in a way where your readers don't know what's going on, and it's clear and it's concise and you keep them engaged. This did not do that at all. Like, nada. Not whatsoever. It was super, super predictable. I wasn't feeling it. I was not feeling it. I was so super disappointing. So I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, and another disappointing read. I don't get what the hype was about this one. This, once again, is one where I feel like it was a contemporary romance built on miscommunications, and it was stupid. Like, if people would just say, hey, this is how I feel, none of this crap would happen. So Alexa and Drew meet in an elevator, and Drew asks Alexa to go with him to a wedding. They hit it off, they like each other, they live in different cities. They try to make this thing work, but then there's miscommunications about like how they feel and why Drew hasn't told her this and why she hasn't told Drew this. It was just, I didn't find it interesting at all. I just was like, and then I felt like Jasmine Guillory could have touched more on what it meant to be in an interracial relationship and how Alexa, the main character, was attempting to figure out some things in terms of the black community and how it was going to be hard for Drew to understand that because he wasn't black. Like, I feel like that was kind of skated on, but she could have delved into that a heck of a lot more, and she didn't, and it really pissed me off. It was a waste of 8 hours. I'm really pissed I cannot get my 8 hours back. So I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, and I think that's me being generous. And the last thing that I listened to was To Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Holy crap, I'm not telling you guys anything about this book whatsoever. You just need to know it's a lady who goes to a house to be a nanny, and then weird things start happening in the house and somebody turns up dead. One of the kids ends up dead. That's it. That's all you need to know. Because that ending blew my mind. And if you're gonna read this, listen to the audiobook, okay? I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, read the book. No, listen to the audiobook. It gives it so much more atmosphere, and it's so creepy. So trust me when I say listen to the audio. All right, y'all, that's it. That is my January wrap up. Remember, I'll be doing a separate wrap up for the picture books. Hopefully over the next couple days I will film that wrap up. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content from me, make sure you click the subscribe button. As always, if you're interested in following me on social media, all of my links will be down below. I'm always interested in what you guys are reading, especially when it comes to your wrap-ups. I love seeing what people have accomplished through the month, so let me know. I don't know, well, maybe I'm not gonna talk about it in this video. I have to shoot another video for that. We'll talk about that later. You guys are probably like, what is she talking about? All right, y'all, I'll be back with another video soon.